Are you a buyer or seller and you don't have a construction background and the idea of looking through a stack of disclosures is overwhelming and you don't know where to start? Well, this video today is going to talk about 6 of the big ticket items to look out for in your physical disclosures, and stick around to the end because we're going to talk about ways you can negotiate around those if you're a buyer or a seller and still get a great price for your home. Hey everyone, this is Jesse Collins. I'm a real estate agent here in Santa Cruz County, and my goal is to keep you well informed about all things Santa Cruz real estate so that when the time comes, you can make the best financial decision for you and your family moving forward. And today, we're going to talk about issues that arise during physical disclosures. And what does that mean? Well, physical disclosures are everything pertaining to the material aspect of your home. That could be the roof, that could be the foundation, that could be even the natural hazard reports, whether you're in a fire hazard zone or not. So stay tuned today and we're going to break it down. And let's start with number 1, and that's foundations. Considering that the foundation is the most integral part of a home's construction, it's very important to know what kind of foundation it has and what condition it is in. Now, whether you're there in person or you're looking through the home inspection report, some things to look out for would be lots of exterior and interior cracks. You want to check the floors, see if they're uneven, check for tile cracking, look around the window frames and see if there's any separation there. Also, look at where the chimney connects through the ceiling. You want to see if there's any cracks around the drywall there. If you have a crawl space, check underneath for rotten piers and beams, check for moisture intrusion, and if you have a poured concrete slab, check for broken stem walls, shifting stem walls, check for bulges or unevenness in the poured slab. And when in doubt, I really advise bringing in a structural engineer to give you a report. I really like Avalon Structural here in Santa Cruz. For around $650, they'll give you a very detailed summary of exactly what kind of condition that foundation is in, and it is definitely worth the money. Coming in at number 2, and very closely related to foundations, we have hillsides and retaining walls. Now, here in California, especially during rainy season, hillsides pose a very serious threat to homeowners because, as you know, soil, gravity, and water like to get things moving downhill, and if your home is in the way, it can be bad news. So, check the home site. You want it to be closer to the crest or the top of that hill, because if you have a lot of hill spanned up above you, that's just potential dirt that can get moving down into your home. Check the foundation, make sure it's stable, make sure it's built well. When in doubt, bring in a structural engineer. Also, check the drainage. You want it to be moving that water around the house and downhill. You don't want that water to be stacking up behind your house and moving down into the foundation. That's bad news. Also, check the retaining walls. Hydrostatic pressure will build up over the years and start to bow those retaining walls out. And keep in mind, replacing these can be a costly project because anything over 4 feet here in Santa Cruz County, you're going to need a permit and plans to do it. That leads us to number 3, sewer lateral and septic inspections. Now, here in Santa Cruz County, responsibility for sewer lateral inspections and repairs, if need be, is on the seller at point of sale. But oftentimes in competitive markets and with highly desirable properties, they will transfer that responsibility to the buyer, who would then have 90 days after the close of escrow to get those repairs completed. Now, that inspection is typically free, but keep in mind, anything like roots intruding or sags in the line can often fail you, and that repair is costly to the tune of $11,000 to $16,000. And in the city of Santa Cruz, they also require a clean out added into the sidewalk, which is an additional $2,500. Septic reports are very important. They cost around $500 for a septic pump and a flow test. I advise all of my sellers to have them done pre-market and all of my buyers to have them done if they haven't been done already. Things that are minor that might show up might be things such as lid repairs, baffle repairs, inflow, outflow T repairs, diverter valve repairs. But if you have trouble with the septic field, that can be very costly, as permitting with the county and the city can be very time consuming. And if your yard isn't big enough for a secondary field, you could be forced to go to an engineered system, and that can run you upwards of $60,000. And also beware of any pit systems. Those were typically done prior to 1970 in very poorly percolating soils, They tend to attract tree roots, and I have never encountered a pit system I have not had a problem with. At number 4, we have high and very high fire severity zones. Now, this information can be found in your natural hazards disclosure and can have significant implications for both buyers and sellers. AB 38 requires sellers of property built before 2010 to comply with local defensible space ordinances, and depending on what the home was built from, they might need to retrofit parts of the house too, but typically that involves clearing brush and certain trees from certain perimeter vicinities around the house, and you have to get that signed off prior to close of escrow. Now that also can be transferred to the buyers, and they would have up to a year to get that compliance completed. Unfortunately, here in California, forest fires are an ever-increasing risk, and that is reflected in the annual bills that fire insurance companies are charging. So, if you're a buyer of a property that falls into a high or very high fire zone, be prepared for a substantial increase in the fire insurance bill. Coming in at number 5, and a very integral part of your home's construction, is the roof. Now, new roofs here in Santa Cruz County can run between $15,000 on the low end to upwards of $60,000 on the higher end, and it's just better to be safe than sorry. For homes older than 5 to 10 years old, I almost always recommend getting a roof inspection. It's around $195 to $250. Jay Saber, I highly recommend here in Santa Cruz County. He can give you a great idea of how many years you have left on that roof, if it needs any kind of fixing, and what it would cost to replace that thing. So always get a roof inspection if you can. Coming in last but not least at number 6 are pest issues. Now, this blanket term could mean a variety of different issues, to include drywood termites, subterranean termites, beetles, rodents, fungus, mold, mildew, dry rot, etc. Now, I recommend my sellers always get these done pre-market, and my buyers always get them done if they aren't provided. It's going to cost around $195 to $250, maybe a little bit more depending on size and whether it has a crawl space or not. Homes that are exposed to full sun are going to tend to have fewer issues than homes up under the redwoods or on the north slope of hills, so keep that in mind. Also, the presence of termites aren't necessarily a deal killer. In fact, Santa Cruz County is just such a good environment for them that it's almost a surprise if they aren't in your home. But tentings can be expensive. Beetles tend to be a more expensive tenting problem than termites. They can run you upwards of $7,000. Tenting for termites can run you $3,000 to $5,000, so keep that in mind. Now that we've talked about some of the big ticket items buyers and sellers might encounter in real estate, let's talk about ways they can handle these during negotiations. As a buyer, how you negotiate around these items is very much going to depend on what kind of market you're in. Now, if it's a seller's market like we've seen the past few years, you might not have the leverage to negotiate around these items at all. Now, if it's a transitioning market like we are currently seeing, and some homes are sitting on the market for 20, 30, 40 or more days, it could be perfect for a lowball offer, and I would lean heavily on my agent to do this. If that home has been on the market for 30, 40 plus days, it is obviously overpriced. So for this next part, I'm going to lean very heavily on my agent. First, I'm going to have him give me a very accurate CMA to tell me the exact price that that home would actually sell for. That's going to be my baseline. Then I'm going to have them help me go through the disclosures and compile a list of the big ticket items and price those out. Now I'm going to subtract that from the baseline price I have. Then I'm going to take 5% away from that price. That is going to be my entry offer. Most likely they're going to counter me back, and I'm going to add 5% on that price, and I'm going to give them that CMA with the estimates, and that's going to justify why my price is where it's at. If they still don't budge on that, I'm probably going to walk and find another home and do that again. For my sellers, I'm always going to suggest you get as many inspections up front as possible, and that's for multiple reasons. One, if anything happens that you weren't expecting, you have time to deal with it and you're not in escrow. It is always worse to fall out of escrow and have buyers asking what is wrong with the home than to find it out on your own time and head that off before you get to the market. And number two is human psychology suggests that it's way easier to get over bad news if it's delivered right away than if you find out about it down the road. So how could this apply to real estate? Well, here's an example. I'm helping sellers prepare their home for the market. We get a home inspection and a pest inspection, but no septic inspection. We get a full price offer at $1 million for some buyers, but during the escrow period, they want to bring in a septic inspector and they have the right to do so. During that inspection, they find out that the septic field is not accepting water very quickly, and while it might not be a deal breaker, now they're wondering, what else are we trying to hide? One, and two, now they're giving us a request for repairs for 15 grand that could cover the cost of a septic field replacement. Where if we'd given them that report off the bat and they'd seen it right away, then they might have just accepted everything for full price. So that's why I always suggest doing all of the inspections up front. As you can see, it's important to have an agent who's experienced and well-versed in any of these issues that may come up while you're preparing your home for the market, while you're negotiating to get the price you need on a house, or while you're in escrow. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is in the description below. And if you got value from this video, please click like and subscribe for more. And until next time, stay awesome.